Good afternoon and welcome to Bourbon Bikes and Business with Hank and Blaise. How are we doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Blaise?
Great. We've got an awesome episode today. We're going to talk about fueling your ride and what's involved with that, no matter what kind of riding you're doing. So it's going to be a good show today. And stay tuned. We're going to have a bonus at the end of something I stumbled across a couple of years ago to do your own personal baking to fuel your ride. It's a tip at the end, so stand by.
So, what are you drinking today?
You guessed it, I'm still sipping the George. 8-year.
Still sipping the Dickel. You love that Dickel.
It's almost gone. It's almost gone. How about you? What do you got? I know you got something different.
This is a bottle we talked about the other night when you were over. I'm having the early times today. Which
pulling out the good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bottle that I'm pretty sure is now discontinued. This is the early times bottled in bond. And Blaise, I traded you something for this. An Eagle Rare, I think it was.
Yeah, that's what.
And even though Eagle Rare is more expensive, this one I think is harder to find.
True.
And and so I am sipping this thing because this might be the last bottle I ever get.
That is good stuff. That is really good. So
yeah. So just a little sip today because, like I say, I'm savoring it.
Yeah, I'm taking a little sip because I might go out for a ride. It's so nice out today.
Very good. So, very good. So, before we dive into the hot topic today, speaking of rides today, I'd like to do a little update with you as to where we are kind of with our training. This will lead right into our topic today of kind of fueling the ride and so forth. So, we are now, we're almost to May, meaning we're about 2 months out. We're about 8.5 weeks out from the big ride, the big pants route ride.
Right.
And so where are you with your training? Where have you been your longest ride so far? Your highest elevations?
What have you been highest elevation was just under 3,000, probably over 35, 40 miles. But my longest ride, I think I've done a 45. So I'm trying to start working up the mileage. And like we just said, I got to get more climbing in. That's the key.
Yeah.
So I got to hit my hill repeats right behind me here on the mountain. I might do it tomorrow night.
Yeah. So, and we were just talking before the show started. I did the big hill right by me is called Eagle Head. So I did a 5-time repeat on the Eagle Head the other day, which was about 1,500 feet. And I figure if I can work myself up to a 10-time repeat, which is 15 minutes per loop that I do, I go down the other side of the hill along my trail, then climb back up. It takes me 15 minutes about to do one loop. So I'll do, I think it works out to like a 2.5 hour ride, 10 times 3,000 feet up Eagle Head. So I'm going to work myself up to that. And my plan is May 1 is when the serious training begins. I wanted going into May 1 of the January, February, March and April, work up my base, my comfort level with climbing again, riding a much heavier bike that I'm used to because I'm riding essentially a mountain bike as opposed to a light carbon road bike and on mountain tires. So I'm coming into May kind of where I want to be. I've hit, 1,500, 2,000 feet. My longest ride's been about 2.5 hours, which was on gravel and the whole way back was straight into a serious headwind. So I feel like I got good training out of that. And my other training, a lot of it has been on the trainer where you're just constant pedaling. You're not going downhill at all. So even though I might only be riding an hour and a half or 2 hours on the trainer, that's constant pedaling for an hour and a half or 2 hours, which is more like 245 out on the real road. So I'm feeling comfortable with where I am. It sounds like you've been doing a good job.
I think you're ahead of me. I just need to get more miles in. Is the key. So
I've been trying to do 3 rides a week and 2 runs a week at least. So
that's good. That's good.
All right.
So let's jump into fueling your ride. Got a couple basic questions anybody should be asking themselves. Number 1, what type of riding are you doing? Are you doing training for a triathlon? Are you mountain biking, gravel, road? All these require some form of fueling. How long are you going to ride? Distance, or how many hours? I mean, as a general rule of thumb, I think if I'm going out for less than an hour, which is rare, I just probably need some water and maybe a light snack, something. But most of my rides, I don't know about you, Hank. I do three hours on average, maybe a 4 hour are typical rides for me. So I usually fuel almost all the time. Um,
I can't usually get out that long because of
yeah,
family commitment stuff. So
right.
my rides are typically not beyond 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
Now I'm going to be doing like Tour de Frederick and maybe one or two other long rides to train up for the Pants ride, but that's going to be about it. But
Right,
I feel the same way. If it's less than an hour, I don't take anything. If it's
right.
an hour and a half, I'll take some water and maybe like a granola bar for emergency. If
Hmm.
it's beyond an hour and a half, then I get serious about my fueling. And
Right,
starting at about an hour in, I start with shot blocks, and then
right.
I'll eat some snacks and
Okay.
so many calories per hour.
Well,
So
let's talk about water. I mean, that's a key thing. I have three bottle types. I got this one, which I use most time. This is the insulated 26 ounce. And I have a non-insulated 24 ounce. Different type of cap. They're both good. This one's a little bit trickier. I like this one because I can reach down, pop it open, leave it open most of the time, so it's a quick drink. And then this is probably your favorite, the little small guy. Uh, you
yeah,
don't
like
drink a heck of a lot, but I'm usually on this one almost all year round. I use the insulated. I mean, it's nice in the summer. You can put some ice in there. It's going to stay cool for the whole ride. So I don't know about you. How do you calculate water versus miles or time? I know I'll drink a 26 ouncer every 15 miles, and it's almost like clockwork. I'm sipping it, and I know if I haven't drank the whole thing at 15 miles, then I'm probably under what I want to be hydrating. If I'm empty before 15, then it's a hot day and I'm drinking more than usual. So that's
so
my
typically I
measurement.
try for a bottle an hour, which is about
Hmm.
what you're talking about,
Yeah,
15 miles an
it's
hour.
about an hour, a little over an
So
hour. Yep.
about a bottle an hour. If it's a really hot day, then I'm also taking salt tabs and electrolytes and things like that. And it's not just water; it's
Right.
Gatorade or I got this um like hot, what's it called? Like Enduro like Gatorade. It's basically less sugar but more
Hmm.
electrolytes and good stuff.
Yeah, we're going to
And
get
so
into that, different
yeah,
electrolyte things
yeah.
in a second.
If it's a hot day, I'll start getting away from water and more towards an electrolyte
Hmm.
drink.
Hmm. The other thing you think about is where you're riding. Is there water, drinks, food available? So if you're riding through communities and stuff, and there's places to stop, you don't need to carry a lot, obviously. But I I'll go over my standard type nutritional stuff that I have during a ride. But I'm still stopping. Sometimes I'll ride to like we ride to a destination for lunch. So then you're gonna be okay for the first half hour or so after you have lunch. Pretty good. The other thing is some people like to use their own food instead of spending a lot of money, which this stuff is not inexpensive. Yeah, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Rice Krispies, Pop Tarts, granola bars, like you mentioned. There's all kinds of stuff. I have it at the end here. Costco, BJ, Sam's Club are all great places to pick up some basic food that you can use as opposed to going to some of these online shopping stores for cyclists where you're going to
Yeah.
spend a lot of money
Yeah,
and
the peanut butter and
save some
jelly
money.
sandwiches might be the best bang for the buck.
I think
Things
so.
like
Yeah.
things like jelly beans are great.
Right.
We were talking the other day on the last long ride I did. I took some Pop Tarts because I really enjoy them, and they
Right.
have sugar in them, and they have
Yep.
carbs in them, and all the good stuff you need. One of the keys is to mix up the types of
All
sugar.
right.
So I remember this from my Ironman days because if you get too much of the same sugar, it doesn't do the trick. You want your body changing different sugars.
Or stay away
So
from like chocolate candy bars because you can bonk because you'll get a influx of energy and then you can bonk. If you're
yeah,
right, it depends on the type of sugar
yeah.
you're
So
putting in your body.
yeah, I try to switch up the types of food, although all of them I try to have some sugar component in there
Right.
because that's important on endurance rides. So
I was thinking last night, my early days of nutrition, I'll talk about over the years how I've changed different brands in a minute. But when we did the Lake Tahoe Century ride, right? I was thinking, what did I have for nutrition? I had a gallon Ziploc of gummy bears. That's what I ate around. It got me around 100 miles.
Yeah.
That was my nutrition for the
Gummy
day.
bears are great for
It was
endurance.
simply gummy bears, and my stomach held
And
up okay too.
the
So
other thing that you have to think about is what can your stomach handle?
right.
So I know like you do a lot of the gel stuff,
Hmm.
but my stomach will not tolerate that like pudding like gel. So I
Yeah.
have to do like a shot block type of
Right.
thing, or like during Ironman, I could have the soup, but I wasn't able to take any like solids in
Hmm.
after a while of like on the run portion. So you
Yeah.
have to practice this stuff during your training. That's the most important thing, and see what works for you.
Yeah, everybody's different, and I've tried, like I said, a lot of different products over the years, some better than others, obviously. So you got to find what works for you. So what I say here today, what I do, isn't necessarily what you're going to do. I'm just going to give you a general overview of some different products to consider and try out and research. So, key components to fueling your ride. You mentioned this earlier. Electrolytes in your drink are really a key thing. I mean, some you don't even do a lot sometimes. You just drink water. Some people just drink water. That's fine. I, over the years, have used electrolytes. I've learned to cut back and use less than what I did years ago. Um, Calories, your intake, depending on how much you're burning, you can really get into a science of it. How much, depending on how hard you're riding, how many calories you're burning, how much can you take in without having a stomach issue, like you said. Um, Sodium can play into it to avoid cramping in really hot riding, long distance rides. Caffeine
And
in
the thing
certain
too is
things.
if you
Yeah,
drink too much water without sodium, your
right,
body can't store the water anymore, and you can actually end up in a serious medical situation if you just
right,
keep taking in water and don't have any sodium.
right.
So the key is to, especially in endurance sport,
Yeah,
all these things become very important. The balance of all these things becomes
yeah.
very
You know
important.
that better than me. I mean, doing triathlons, how you see people just collapse because they didn't have a good balance of things going on.
Yeah.
Um, Certain products have caffeine in it, give you a little boost. You got to be careful because you don't want too much caffeine. And then you have, years ago, I would do a recovery drink after rides. Now I haven't done that for years. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I used to. I do know a rule of thumb. They say you should eat food and the right foods within an hour of completing a long, say 3 hours plus ride to help your body recover. That's one thing
Glycogen stores.
one thing I try
Yeah.
to do. Don't always, but it's a good rule of thumb.
Now I'll tell you, one of the best kind of drinks that might not hit people's minds on while you're engaging in endurance sport.
Hmm.
But if I'm like long ride, so I've been out for 3 hours and I have an extra kind of just 15 miles to just hammer and finish out the ride,
Right.
I'll take a cold Coke. I
Yeah.
don't want the Coke at the beginning because
No.
you're probably going to crash after drinking that.
Right.
But it gives you a nice
Boost.
energy spike,
Yep.
and that cold, fresh Coke just does incredible things for your spirit
Yeah,
too.
if I'm doing a really long bike event, that's the same thing. The 80%, 20% to go, I'll grab a Coke just to get me home,
Mhm.
kind of thing, and it tastes
Mhm.
good. Or after, as soon as you finish, or a good beer.
Yeah.
So where to shop and what to shop for. So this again is wide open, but this is my opinion. I'd say a great place to start if you're new, trying to figure out what products, what brands. Go to a site called the Feed, FEED.com. They're based out of Boulder, Colorado. And they print out their page here. They have 175 plus brands of different nutritional companies that provide. And this is generic to running, mountain biking, climbing, riding, whatever you're doing. Some of the top ones that are on their page, and I use a couple of these: Science and Sport, Marten, which is a newer one, Hammer Nutrition, which I started with years ago, is really big with endurance athletes. Scratch Labs, again, a Colorado based. Pro Bar. Untapped is, I think, Ted King's company up there in Vermont. GU, I think you use some of their products. Striker, and Tailwinds, I think is a newer one. So those are some of the popular brands, but they have a crap load of brands there that you can research. So that's one place. once you figure out the brand you're going to use, and I'll talk about myself for a minute. Years ago, I was a big Hammer nutrition. I used Hammer electrolytes. I used Hammer bars. I used Hammer, I think it was electrolyte sodium tablets. I forget the exact name. I would eat those like crazy too. Over the years, I found I was taking in too much sodium and I drastically cut back or almost went without sodium. The only time now I'll take sodium is I'm doing a really long ride and or it's really hot because I have a tendency to cramp up. So that, and I've used pickle juice in many cases as an emergency thing. If I'm really cramping, I'll down some pickle juice, and that seems to work like magic.
Yeah, if it's over 80 and
Yeah,
or it's an endurance ride, that's when
yeah,
and before the ride even starts, I'll take 2 salt tabs and
yeah.
then keep like every half hour take
Like
two.
our summer trip, I'll be taking them. I took a couple this weekend. Brandon gave me some on our 30, 40 mile ride that we did. It was all gravel. Other places to shop, you got Amazon and eBay are the two biggies. Google the product, see who has the best price. Support your local bike shops. I'm a big advocate of that, especially if I'm out on a ride going through a town. I'll go in and maybe grab a couple Cliff Shop bars or something. Or you can go direct once you figure out these big brands. And like I said, go to the feed. Many of them, you go right to their site directly. Let's see, where's my list here? What do I do with it? Yeah, hammernutrition.com, scienceandsport.com is one of my favorites. Theprobar.com, scratchlabs.com, powerbar.com. Those are some of the biggies, I would say, when it comes to cycling. Again, there's lots. But back to my story. I used Hammer for years, and then I found out I would get cramping and gut issues. And then I think I was at the Philly Bike Expo 10 plus years ago, and Alan Lynn out of Boulder and he was a nutritionist for pro cyclists in Colorado. I think Team Garmin, I think he worked with out of Boulder, Strip Street, the Garmin team, pro racing team. He did the nutritional cooking for them. So he started Scratch Labs, and I was at the Philly Expo and they gave out samples. And what was cool about it, it was not sweet. It was just had a hair of lemon, hair of lime, hair of orange. And I really got hooked on that. So I started using their electrolytes and their recovery drink for years. I went to that. And then I'd probably say in the last 6 years or more, I've migrated to Science and Sport. That's my favorite go-to. And for me personally, I'm going to show you a couple of things I use. But before I forget, I want to show you a great book you might want to explore. This is called The Feed Zone. This is by Alan Lynn. And I think there's another guy that wrote the book. What does it say on here? Fast and flavorful food for athletes. This isn't even cyclists. They've got great recipes, good pictures in here. They have like the rice cakes that you see the pro riders eating, about 8 different brands of rice cakes. But great book to pick up. It's by Velo Press. It's a hardbound book. So that's something you might want to look into. But let me quick run through what I feed with, and you can tell me, Hank, what you use as another alternative. So, number one, electrolytes. So here's my Science and Sport. I buy in quantity because much as I ride. This is their Go Electrolyte, Sport Electrolyte Supplement. 37 grams of carbohydrates. This is like a 56-ounce container. You can get smaller ones. You can get 18-ounce. So it comes. I like the orange because, again, it's not real sweet. Or lemon lime is the other one. My other half likes this for running. So she has lemon lime. I have orange. So for years, I would put a whole scoop. I think it says to put in the 26-ounce bottle. But lately, I put half in. And I find that works just fine. So, it's all about marketing, right? They want you to buy lots of this stuff. But I found if I cut it in half, I still have plenty of energy. And it gets me through my ride, whether it's 2, 4, 6 hour ride, no problems at all. The other thing during a ride, and again, so I'll fill up 2 bottles of that. Now I might go to water after that just to change it up so it's not too much overkill on that. And I'm trying a new product right now. So I think you mentioned this. This is my go-to. This is a Cliff Bar product. They're called Block Shots. They have a new product. It's called, I think it's Sour Apple. I'm going to try out. So hopefully it's not too sweet, too sour.
Like the orange ones.
So I'm trying those right now. This is what they look like if you just get one. And the other thing is convenience when you're riding. I like these. You just rip the top. You can squeeze it with your hand and grab them. They're not falling on the trail. You're not fumbling around with a bag full of almost loose stuff like some other products. And they give you, this is 80 calories. So I'll typically go through one of these in a 30-mile ride, eating them on and off the ride on the way out and the way back. Here's another alternative to that I also like. This is by a Pro Bar. Again, this isn't as a convenient of a package. You rip this open. Sometimes I was put in a Ziploc so it's easier to get to in my top two bag. These are called Bolt Organic Energy Chews. This one's pink lemonade. I like their berry also. It's a mixture of blueberry and raspberry. Very light. Again, not too sweet. So those are my during the ride feed type thing. And I'm a big fan if I'm doing a long ride, or I almost do this probably too often. This is a Science and Sport product. Again, you might think it's heavy. I think it's pretty light. You can buy these. This is a box of 6. I usually buy 30, which I bought recently. Again, these are really small, convenient. You can stick them in your bags, in your pocket, whatever you're riding with. Oh, and let me back up to the blocks. The orange has 25 milligram of caffeine in it. So you got to look at these closely. Some of them have caffeine. Some of them have more sodium. Some of them, like the new ones, the sour, apple green sour, don't have caffeine or extra sodium. So I like these. They seem to give me a real good boost for energy. But this, I'm going to use on a strenuous day, or when I'm halfway through the ride or 80% through the ride. I need something to get me home because I'm sort of bonking, running out of energy at the end. This just gives you an immediate quick pickup. You don't need water with it. So I like that. It's easy. Even if I'm running out of water, I squeeze one of those and keep going. So that's pretty much my nutrition package that I'm doing on a regular basis. So how about you? What do you
I do some similar things. So first of all, the shot blocks, the orange shot blocks with the caffeine are my go-to. Once I get past 1 hour. And then I'm trying to take in one full package of those shot blocks each hour. So that I think there's 6 blocks. So I try to munch on 6 blocks per hour. But then I want to mix it up too. I don't want to just have shot blocks because like what I said before, you got to mix up the sugars. You don't want to get sick of a particular food either. And I also don't like a ton of the sport gels and stuff like that. Like I like regular food if I can take it in. So, so for the first hour, if it's just a 2-hour ride, I'll do shot blocks to get me through that 2 hours. But then after that, if I'm on a really long ride, like we're about to do, which is like an all-day adventure, I'll definitely mix in real food. I'll mix in Jelly Belly Sport Beans, which is different kind of sugars, similar to the shot blocks, but it's like a jelly bean form, so it's just different.
They're good. I almost bought them for the event last week, the Jelly Belly.
And then I'll try to get food where I can, like real food, like Pop-Tarts or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or subs or pizza or whatever it is, just to keep mixing it up in my mouth because I get really tired of eating the same thing and it almost makes me nauseous, so I like to mix it up.
It's really weird, but I like chocolate milk when I stop for lunch. I don't know why.
Oh.
Really?
Oh, I cannot drink chocolate milk on a ride.
I love chocolate milk. It calms my stomach and I'm ready to go again.
Oh. I could just think of the milk curdling in my stomach as I'm on a hot ride. That's disgusting. I know you get it when we do the ride in Amish country, and I never know how you stomach that. That's just...
I get it at White's Ferry all the time. That's one of my favorite things with a sandwich. Corned beef and chocolate milk.
Oh, jeez, Louise. It's so bad.
Anyway.
You know what? On the pants route,
Yeah.
anything kind of goes.
Yeah,
And
right.
and
We'll
I'm
buy whatever you
also
got.
I really want to incorporate fresh fruit where I can.
Yeah, if
So
we
grabbing a
can.
banana or a fresh
Yeah,
orange or
yeah.
something like that, just for that fresh taste in your mouth.
Bananas and oranges are real good.
For
Yeah, I
me, for
agree.
me, it's about mixing up including a variety of tastes in my mouth, so I don't get sick of any one particular thing. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So a couple other sites here. We're almost done. We're gonna wrap up. I mentioned Costco, BJ, Sam's Club. Sometimes they even have nutritional bars, powdered proteins, things like that. One tip is if most people are on Strava, you can sign up for the monthly challenges, and I think the feed has a thing where you can sign up, write a couple hours. They'll send you a coupon. I get $15 off. So I always use that to buy at the feed, to shop at the feed.com. What else? Performance Bicycles or performancebike.com. That's that North Carolina online shop that used to have stores. They have a good selection of various different nutritional products I was looking at. And then like the backcountries.com is another place to shop. So
I get my
any
stuff on Amazon for what it's
Amazon,
worth.
yeah, yeah. Again, I shop Amazon, eBay, or some of these big brand sites to see who has the best price. Google's gonna, once you type in, or Amazon, Google whatever product you need in the quantity, and it's gonna show you who's got the best price. It's almost like gold anymore. One week, I mean, a box of these things can vary from $28 for a box of 30 to 54. I saw the other day. It's
I'm
like,
not paying 54.
neither am
All
I.
me.
Neither am
Yeah.
I. I mean, that's why I got mine at the feed and got my $15 off. So especially today, it's like everything else. Prices through the roof on stuff. It's just crazy. So I promised I was going to give everybody a tip. And this is something I stumbled across on YouTube. We'll put the link in here. I found this a couple of years back. And this guy, I'm trying to find a name, Food Wishes with Chef John. And this he's pretty entertaining on his YouTube video. But he did a segment on chocolate energy bars. It's titled Chocolate Energy Bars Looking Good, Maybe Too Good. So listen to the ingredients in this. It makes about 12 little blocks. 2 cups of chopped pitted medjool dates is the key. Got to find those kind of dates. They're real soft. You take the pits out. And this is where you can mix different things. You can mix nuts and dried fruit into this, whatever you like. 2 cups of raw cashews, almonds, walnuts. I like walnuts. A cup of raw or roasted unsalted almonds. And this is the other key ingredient, unsweetened cocoa. And they even tell you a certain kind to try. A little bit of coconut oil, some unsweetened shredded coconut. I don't put that in because I don't like coconut. Some vanilla extract. And this is the other cool ingredient. 2 tablespoons of cold espresso coffee. If you don't like coffee, don't put it in. But I like coffee. Some kosher salt and a pinch of cayenne pepper is the other. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like that. But it gives you a little edge. You got the fruit. You got the chocolate, twist of pepper. And it's just phenomenal. These things are great. They're easy to make. You put them in a baking tray. You bake them in the oven. You take them out. You stick them in the fridge. And then you cut the whole pan into whatever size bars you want and wrap it in like wax paper. And he showed you how to tie it with a piece of string. You don't have to do that, but they're awesome. If you try that recipe, I think you're going to love it. It's a great fueling, much better. I don't care for, say, the Cliff makes a bar with oats and blueberries. They're just too heavy for me. I don't know about you. Some people eat a lot of those too. That's another thing.
I like the Kind makes like a granola bar, and they purport to be like a healthy alternative, but if you actually look at it, there's tons of sugar and crap in it. But if I'm on an endurance ride and need calories, I'll have one of those because they're delicious. And there are some granola bars out there that are made to be healthy without a bunch of crap in them, and I'll usually just buy a bunch of those and eat those, carry them in my back pocket. Snack on those.
So those are the tips for everybody. Again, this is very subjective, like a lot of things we talk about. You got to figure out what works for you, trial and error, try some different products. But the key things, I would look for an electrolyte for your drink, something to eat during your ride that's easy and convenient, that gives you some calories. And on a hot day, some salt tablets. There's, I think, Sportful, Hammer Electrolytes. Science and Sport makes some flavored salt tablets like I had the other day with a tinge of lemon lime or orange that just dissolve in your mouth. I think you take those occasionally, right? Are really good to avoid cramping, and then a little bottle of pickle juice, which I'll do on a really long ride. So that's what we got this week. One tip we put in our podcast: if you like the content on our channel, you can support us by making a little donation. There's a little button on our podcast now, and you can support as little as $3 a month to help us bring some great content to everybody. And we really appreciate our listeners and followers on YouTube and the podcast channels out there.
Yeah, that would really help the channel grow, and we could kind of taste more bourbons and report back on that for you. So, yeah.
Yeah, coming up here in May, I'll finish my trip, and we'll go to part 2 of our segment of what I came up for $150 worth of bourbon on the ideal selection.
I can't wait for a blind taste test.
Roll out part 3 of the blind taste test to see what's the best $150 collection.
Yeah,
that's going to be good.
I'll take your car keys from you on that one.
Yeah, really. All right, Hank. Thanks a lot. Have a great week, everybody.
All right.
See you next time.